right now I moved into a company where I closely work with these type of formulations where, I deliver the gene of interest. So that, I work on the therapeutics, so it's different from vaccine, but, some of the key concepts are very similar.
The science of today is the technology of tomorrow. Today we are surrounded by different types of technology which are playing an important role in the area of medicines and the chemistry. I am Karishma Sharma, the host of BioPatrika magazine. Welcome you in our PhD talk show. It's time to honor the guest of the day. Please welcome Mr. Subhadeep Dutta. Well, he's a formulation scientist and also a nanobiotechnologist working at Cellugen Therapeutics. Subhadeep, welcome in our PhD talk show.
Hi, Karishma.
Hello, Subhadeep. We are very happy to have you on our side. Thank you so much for doing this for us. Let me start with the very first question with you. Can you please tell me about your background, from where you have been born and brought up?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank BioPatrika for this initiative. I think this is a really great platform where at least the next generation students will get some inspiration and also can learn some of our stories, so that will help them in their career, hopefully. From my background, I actually born in a small city named Sirampur at the coast of River Hooghly in the state of West Bengal in India. And I grew up in a middle-class family where, none of my parents pursued a STEM-based career. And, my enthusiasm for chemistry grew from high school, and I pursued a bachelor's in chemistry in Jadavpur University. Although at that time, the non-traditional careers were not that much. Everyone was going for engineering or doctors. Although I chose basic science, for example, chemistry for my case. And after that, I pursued a master's in IIT Bombay. And following that, around that time, I have some experience in research, mainly in the domain of basics of organic chemistry and the characterizations and all those. And after my master's, I worked for a year as a DSP project associate in IIT Madras. And that is the first time I got exposed to the application of chemistry in solving some biological problems where, we were working on synthesizing a anti-tuberculosis drug using an eco-friendly chemoenzymatic route from yeast. And that kind of opened up my curiosity beyond the basic chemistry. And, the next year I got admitted for a PhD program in chemistry in the Arizona State University, where I actually chose to join in a research group in chemical engineering, which was very multidisciplinary, not in a chemistry department, which is a traditional path. But then that kind of opened up a lot of research directions for me, where we were working on developing various polymeric nanoparticle based formulations for different applications related to human health. And following that, I graduated from Arizona State University, and then I joined in my current role at Cellugen Therapeutics, where I am a scientist in the novel drug delivery or the formulation group.
Oh my God, that's really a great introduction you have given. So coming from background of Jadavpur University, you have joined Arizona University. I guess it's a big journey, right, for you that you have done.
Right.
Congratulations for this and achieving the milestone. So Shubhadeep, based on the same, I have another question. So what make your interest and you have inclined towards this polymeric based drug nanoparticle? What was your keen interest with the same?
Sure. I think during my PhD, I got exposure to developing various kind of polymeric nanoparticle-based formulations for different applications, starting from gene delivery or drug delivery, from radiation sensing or tissue sealing or endoscopic imaging. So the breadth of application was diverse. But the interesting part was every problem is unique in nature. Although if we break that bigger problem into smaller pieces, we can clearly see that there are intersections of some part of the problem to another problem. So in that way, we can really fine tune the properties of the polymeric nanoparticles to be effective for different applications. The applications can be very different from each other, but some components of those formulations could be similar. So that was really fascinating to me, and this field of polymeric nanoparticle started long time back. I think the first example of liposome came around 1965, and then the first FDA approved lipid nanoparticle or lipid based nanoparticle derived drug was the doxil. It's a very traditional cancer drug which was around 1995, and then so on. There's a lot of research was already going on, and all of a sudden we got hit by the pandemic. And right there, as you may know, that we have unprecedented development of these new mRNA based vaccine where they use the lipid based nanoparticle as the carrier. So that kind of emerged a very hard field of research. Although, the people who were working on that field, they know that it didn't happen in 1 year. The research was ongoing for last decade or so with these kind of applications. It was just waiting for one problem to come, and that's when the scientists delivered as a vaccine, by using that technology. So I think that kind of motivated me, where right now I moved into a company where I closely work with these type of formulations where I deliver the gene of interest. So that I work on the therapeutics, so it's different from vaccine, but some of the key concepts are very similar.
Yeah, that's really great. So, Shubhadeep, as you said, lipid-based drug delivery, right? So, do you really think so? Like, suppose in future, if people are going to suffer from such kind of pandemic, whether they are it depend upon where they can be more lethal or depend upon their effect on the human body. So, do you think that this technology can bring, effective opportunity in different area of medical sciences?
Yeah, definitely. The one important part of this is, you know, this technology is made up with very, four or five different components, and each of these plays different roles to deliver the drug or the nucleic acid, whatever you want to deliver for a certain disease. So it is very of course it's a lot of work, but there is a lot of scope to tune for a certain application. So if it's just one thing, then you don't have too much breadth to play around. But since it's a structure made up with multiple different things, then you can really change those things in different ratios, and you can really tune the properties based on what is your application. So I think definitely there is a lot of scope, although there are some challenges, which is in the field, and definitely that's why we work in science, right? To cross one challenge after another.
Yeah, exactly. Very true said. So, Shobhadeep, as you're a scientist, you know very well about the same and you already worked since long. So, you're also working in cellulogen therapeutics, right? So, what do you think that what is the responsibility of a scientist when they are working in such kind of organization? What role that you play there? Can you please brief?
Sure. Yeah. So when I graduated with my PhD, I was looking for jobs, and as you may know, US has a lot of biotech and pharma presence, and there are very different kind of structure. If a company is a small company versus a mid-sized company versus a big company or a big pharma, right? Taliagen here is a startup. So the good part about the startup is, there is a lot of flexibility, there is a lot of learning opportunity. So, if I would have to explain my day-to-day job or my responsibilities, definitely I am a scientist, so a good amount of my time is working on the bench of figuring out what works or not, right? But other than that, definitely, a good amount of it is actually communicating that science, right? Either discussing with a cross-functional team, because I am in the formulation group, right? There are our research is currently in a preclinical stage where we work a lot of we use different animal models to actually find out if our drug product is actually viable or not, right? Before testing into humans. That's the basic thing we do, right? So we have to really intercept with different teams within the organization, with analytical team or the preclinical team, and that is one of the aspects. But the other aspect is also, we had to collaborate with some other organization called CRO, or contract research organization, which basically make some uh, published molecules or an established chemical entity for us. As a startup, we don't have all the every uh, sophisticated machines or capabilities in-house. So that's when we collaborate with these type of organizations where, I had to do a lot of scientific discussions with these type of organizations where, I had to lead meetings. And I think these are some opportunities where, as a, being in a startup, I get to wear a lot of hats, where in a bigger company I may not be able to do these kind of things in these initial stages of my career. So that is definitely a plus point, I would say, as I am experiencing over this past 1 year or so.
Yeah, that's great to know because a small thing have a big opportunity, as you also have like express your views over the same. So Shubhadeep, that's great that you're working in that startup, but working on polymeric nanoparticle based drug delivery, right? So maybe you have faced a different challenges because it is a startup, right? And you're working on such a big type of medicine area and the chemistry area. So what type of challenges that you faced while working on this polymeric based nano drug delivery approach?
Sure, I can think of a few um, things where definitely the field is kind of facing the challenges, and definitely we as a scientific community, since I work in that domain, we are also tackling similar challenges. One of the thing, I think it's a comparatively common problem of these very high tech translational, the fact of translational correlation from in vitro to in vivo means we first, test our samples or our drug product in cells, which is in a petri dish. But then taking that and going into animal models, in a preclinical animal model in smaller animals like rats or mice, there is a lot of mismatch on what we see in cells versus what comes into actual animals. So, and again, the next step goes as from a smaller animal to a bigger animal, and then comes from the bigger animal to the human, right? So for each of these cases, sometimes there are very minimum correlation, and that's when it becomes very challenging. And that's why the whole field of organoid or 3D tissue engineering, that kind of field is kind of emerging, because there's a lot of need where technologies are there, but initial screening could not happen. So everything cannot go into mice or rats, right? So that is one challenge, the translational correlation. And then the other challenges are, we administered these drugs in different routes, like intravenous or intraperitoneal or different routes. But then the toxicity of these particles really matters when where those particles are going, right? So the biodistribution of these particles. So the main focus, another focus of the these research are actually do the targeted delivery, which means, you know, we know the problem we are going to solve. We know which organ we are targeting. So how can we traffic those nanoparticles to that particular organ so that it doesn't go everywhere in the body and create an immune response and further toxicity, right? So that's one of the challenges, and there are different ways to do this, but that is one of the another part. And in particular for nucleic acid delivery, there is a lot of research and a lot of products are there for small molecule delivery, which means you encapsulate a small molecule into these carriers or the polymeric nanoparticles. But as you may know, the mRNA vaccine is a mRNA nucleic acid, which is basically encapsulated in these um, polymeric nanoparticles. But then there is another field of another challenge for DNA delivery that is the whole field is working on, where it's an extra set of challenge because the nanoparticles can deliver the DNA into the cells, but then the DNA has to go to the nucleus to get transcribe to the RNA and then express the protein for curing the disease or whatever, right? So that the DNA has to travel to the nucleus. That's an extra step. So that's where another set of challenge coming in, where you don't see a lot of these DNA-based delivery technology, where you see a lot of RNA-based technologies, where RNA can be just in the cells. It doesn't need to go to the nucleus, right? So that I think these are main areas or such challenges, I would say, in the field.
I think working on such a nano things makes you stronger, I guess. Is there any scariest moment that you have faced working on the small nano things and you have come up with a great innovation?
Um, I mean, being as a scientist, everyone understands. I think most of our experiments goes into failure, although we don't say it, but we learn from those failures and we design our experiment to the next day to make it better, right? So I cannot just define a scariest moment, but there are definitely, along these years, definitely there are certain days where I expected something to happen, but I got a completely different result, and then I had to think back that why that happened, and that may lead to a new invention. So that always happens. I think that's common for these type of careers, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I guess they are the biggest challenges that you face in the area of your professional life. So, if I talk about your personal life, so what are the biggest challenges that you face? Working again, would like to say on that nanobot and maintaining your personal life. So, how these challenges have shaped you, Shubhadeep? Going with a long journey, leaving the country, and in different country, you are doing such innovative thing and a small startup. So, what are your views? How they have shaped you?
Right. I think this is a great question, or for the discussion. I have a few things I would like to mention. First of all, as you mentioned, being as an international student coming all the way from India to US, from the other side of the world, is really a challenge for everyone, right? Like we are not close to our family, so that gives us an extra set of burden. So perseverance and hard work, I think these are the two things, kind of, when I look back, how my 5 or 6 years of PhD gone, that's the main two key characteristics, I would say, because especially at the end of the PhD, it become really, really hectic, and it's just so many things you have to manage. You have to write up the thesis, you have to apply for a job, either it's a job or a postdoc or whatever career you might choose. And there's an extra set of challenges, being as an immigrant. So how to manage those immigration related hurdles? So we have to either be in a F1 visa or maybe getting a H1B visa, or different type of situations. So be how to make yourself or us prepared for those kind of scenarios and kind of thinking ahead. And that's when I think the perseverance comes into the play. At some point, we may feel like it doesn't, why is it not ending? And although we see the light in the end of the tunnel, that's what people say, right? But then I think that's when that's the key characteristics of every one of us who has gone through that. Another important thing is kind of identifying our own strength and weaknesses. I think the earlier we can do that, the better, because then you can kind of focus on those strengths, and you can kind of publicize those, or you can sell those to go into your next career. But at the same time, you can work on your weaknesses. So I think that's really important. I kind of can I kind of always do a back thinking of what I could do better, and what I did better, and so those kind of things. So identifying the strengths and weaknesses as early as possible in the career is much better. I think I mentioned the communication part earlier, but I think communication is a very important soft skill. I think it's becoming more and more clear these days, and it comes in a related way, which we call networking, right? So I think throughout my career, I never would have came to at this point where I am if I didn't have good mentors throughout my way. And I think having multiple mentors is really worth it, because you will get a lot of different perspectives, and that's when you can build your own character and you can solve your own problem. And I think the mentors plays really a important role, especially for students who doesn't have support from family or elderlies, who are just by figuring out their career by themselves. And that's when the mentorship plays a really important role. And at the end, definitely, I would kind of reiterate that curiosity to learn new things every day. And I think I cannot emphasize that more, because for example, this field is such hot topic that every day new findings are coming up. So if we are not keep up with the literature, we cannot move faster. So that's, I think, a couple of things what I learned, and I hope these are helpful.
Yeah, really, it's a remarkable journey you had, since you started and now you're succeeding and doing all those big things. My lot of wishes are there with you, Subhadeep. And we are very happy to know the challenges that you have faced and going through right now with that also, that have shaped you a lot. Congratulations for this big achievement and the journey that you are doing, and you are going to achieve something great. That's my wish. So, Shubhadeep, thank you so much for doing this with us. We are very happy. And I guess for the viewers and who are going to watch it, definitely it will help them, especially when they are approaching the nanoparticle area or related to the same in the foreign. So thank you so much once again. Take care. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Karishma.